Story time about how my friends made everyone hate me. So a little background information, I was 15 and in 9th grade. And we're going to call my best friend Charlene. Her and I were best friends from 6th grade all the way up till freshman year. Well, when we got into high school, she caught feelings for this sophomore who we're going to call Ben. And when I say she caught feelings for this boy, she was like in love with him. Personally, I didn't like anybody. I just got out of a toxic relationship. So boys were like the last thing on my mind. Well, instead of Ben trying to pursue things with her, he would always try to flirt with me instead. And I would never go along with it because duh, girl code. Well, instead of talking to Ben about this, she would run to all of her other friends and call me a slut. For me, quote, letting him flirt with me. Like, girl, I can't control him. The most I can tell him to do is stop. Anyway, so the one day we were waiting for the bus to go home, and all of a sudden Ben comes up behind me and gives me a hug and a kiss. On the cheek, of course, but still. So I push him off of me because, ew. Well, Charlene laughs it off like everything's fine, like for part 2 about how my friends made everyone hate me. So like I said, Ben comes up behind me, give me a hug and a kiss, and I say, ew, push him off of me, and then Charlene laughs it off like everything's fine. But then the next day at school, people are telling me about how she was telling everybody that I would force him to kiss me and hang out with me. And of course, everybody believed her, and no one believed me. Which I'm not gonna lie, I feel like in high school, whenever there's a rumor starting, unless you tell your side of the story first, no one's gonna believe you. Well, thankfully, he ended up explaining the whole situation to everybody. So once those rumors were laid to rest, she started new rumors that she was gonna fight me after school. And I was tired of putting up with this shit, so I ended up beating her ass. And now I'm a senior in high school. And thankfully have found amazing supportive friends. As for Charlene, I haven't heard anything about her since, and I would like to keep it that way. Because why would you let a boy get in the middle of our friendship?
My junior year of college, I was an RA, and I was a cool RA. Like, I don't care if your man comes to stay. Anyway, I had this roommate. She was a freshman, and through what I felt like was a federal investigation, I ended up finding out that she was pretending to shower, she did not use toilet paper, and she did not wash her hands when we were in the midst of a global pandemic, right? And it took me a while to come to this conclusion, but she smelled like a hot trash can in Alabama. She smelled so bad. Anyway, so I'm the RA, so I can do whatever I want, right? So I bought up like all these candles from Bath & Body Works, and I decided to light one. I put it in like our little like sink place, like where we brush our teeth, and then I went to the kitchen to get something. When I came back, the candle was blown out. I was like, oh my gosh, that's weird. I was going back to the kitchen. I think I was like air frying something. Literally, I'm the RA, I can do whatever I want to. Came back, it was blown out again. I was like, okay, like maybe it's a dry for here. Like I'll just put the candle in my room. Put the candle in our room, finished doing whatever I was doing in the kitchen, came back in my room. My roommate is literally sitting in my room like, oh, she called me. And I'm like, what are you doing in my room? And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, bro, like literally get out of my room. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't be up my space. It's the only clean space in this entire house because you stink so bad. So anyway, I looked down, the candle's blown out. So I was like, okay, Candy, that's what we're gonna call it. Candy's been blowing out my candles this entire time. So I texted her and I was like, hey, first of all, don't ever go in my room unless you want problems with me. Okay, let's start there. And she was, and I'm, okay. Anyway, so I was like, don't ever do that again. Like the only reason that I have these candles light is because you stink. End of discussion. She didn't say anything else, left me on red, okay? Then the next day I'm at my other job when I worked at the library, and I get a text from my big boss, and he was like, hey, we need you to hop on this Zoom call right now. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I hop on the Zoom call, and it's like all my bosses, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And they're like, did you say that your roommate stinks? And I was like, yeah, I did. And they were like, why did you say that? And I told them why. And they're like, that's not appropriate, like that's mean, that's bullying, that's blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And he was like, well, you need to text her and apologize. You need to send her an email and apology, and when you get home, you need to apologize again. And I was like, okay. So I texted her and I was like, this is the reason that I said that you stink. It was never giving apology. It was never giving apology, right? So anyway, whatever. Get back on another Zoom with the big boss, and he was like, yeah, also we're going to be putting you in anger management classes because you really need to figure that out. And mind you, he was not. And I was like, you really, whatever. So then we ended up having a bigger intervention with the girl and her mama and like the bigger bosses. And the mom was like, oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention this in our previous meeting, but Jayana fought my daughter. And I was like, oh, really, when? Just like that. I said, oh, really, when? And she's like, oh, you think you're so smart? It was February 18th. And I was like, Candy, isn't that your sister's birthday? And she was like, yeah, how do you know that? I was like, because you kept telling me, and you texted me, and I have the text right here that you were going to be home in Texas on February the 18th. February the 18th, I was also in Mobile, Alabama, getting my driver's license renewed. Exhibit A. Thank you very much. It says February 18th. And she was like, the mom was like, okay, well, maybe Jayana didn't fight my daughter, but this is blah, 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 blah. Hey, I quit. Thank you so much.
My roommate's boyfriend keeps harassing me and I don't know how to tell her. Disclaimer is not my story time on Instagram. My roommate and I have been living together for 2 years now. Now, I wouldn't call her my best friend, but we are very close. We don't really talk about intimate things, but at the end of the night, she's always there and we usually have dinner together. Not really close to my family, so to me, it's important that she's there every single night. But here's where things get really Her and I both got boyfriends around the same time. I met my boyfriend through a friend, and he is the sweetest, purest thing ever. This man cries at every single movie, but he travels a lot for work, so he's usually not there. Now, my roommate's boyfriend, he's a personal trainer, and I'm pretty sure he takes steroids because he's always angry. Should I say aggressive? His behavior became super obnoxious to me right away. As soon as he would come over to the apartment, he would start saying things like, "Babe, your roommate is so hot." Like, he would say that about me to my roommate. Of course, she tried to laugh it off, but I know it bothered her. One day, he even started joking about how he was gonna come into my room one night while I was asleep. Obviously, I did not find this funny. That's when I asked him to leave the apartment. He got so mad and slammed a drawer. Do you think my roommate stood up for me? No. Part 2 is up. My roommate's boyfriend keeps harassing me and I don't know how to tell her. Disclaimers not my story time, it's not me on Instagram. After he called me a bitch and left the apartment, I was terrified. First off, this guy is 6'2" and he's built like a truck. He's like pure muscle. So when he's yelling in my face and slamming drawers, of course I'm terrified. But my roommate does nothing. But it gets worse. 2 hours after he left, he sends me a text message saying, you. And then he sends me a picture of him with his tongue out, giving me the middle finger. I got up to show it to my roommate, but that's when she actually asked to talk to me. She sat me down on the couch and she started telling me how he's such a good man, and how she's never been able to find anybody like him. Then she asked me if I could just try to get along with him. He even started crying and it broke my heart. So I decided to let it go. But the next time this guy came over, once again, he started playing super loud music. I came out of my bedroom because I was trying to work, and I asked him nicely to turn it down. At this point, my roommate was showering, so it was just him and me in the living room. But then he gets up from the couch and walks slowly towards me, looking me up and down. That's when he says, "You wish you had a guy like me." I turned around and tried to walk back to my room, but he grabbed my arm and turned me around. Then he grabbed my face and tried to kiss me. I actually gagged. That's when he said to me that I was just playing and that I actually want him. The whole time he was squeezing my arm so hard, I finally got away and went into my bedroom. And that's when he sent me a picture of his thing. I literally almost died. I walked out and kicked him out again. This time he didn't put up a fuss, but now I don't know how to tell my roommate. What the heck am I gonna do?
Hey guys, story time on how me and my friends were convinced a truck was following us through a forest at 3 a.m. Basically, we were at my birthday cabin, and keep in mind it's in the middle of a forest. It's just this cabin with a pool, and it's about in a 2-mile radius circling around. There's about no other houses, and it's about a 15-minute drive through a gravel road that like goes to 2 other houses on the way, but like it's pretty narrow and it's like in the middle of nowhere. So we decided at like 3 in the morning we want to go get some McDonald's because we were hungry. So we ended up sneaking out and getting some McDonald's, right? Basically on our way back, my friend who was driving started noticing this truck behind us who had its brights on and would constantly be turning them on and off. And like usually on the road that usually like means like they're trying to notify you of something. Like especially if they're right behind you and they're flashing multiple times, usually means they want you to speed up. But like keep in mind we're on a gravel road, so we're like, okay, we'll speed up a little bit. We're like really speeding now, going way too fast on this narrow road. Who's like, keep in mind we're in the middle of like this like mountainy forest area, so on the sides of the road it just like drops, so like we can't be going too fast when it's turning like that, but we aren't going slow at all, like keep that in mind. I end up turning behind us to see who's driving, and it's this old man in this truck, and he was by himself. So we're like kind of like creeped out, and we're 3 girls in this car and you can see through the windows. So we start driving even more and more. Around like 5-10 minutes goes by and we're like, oh my god, this truck is still following us. We were getting creeped out. We were really worried. And my friend in the backseat, who was like crazy, was an idiot and stuck her head out the window and flipped him off, which started flashing his brights, and we're like, okay, we really like pissed him off. And right before we get to my house, he like goes into this thing and turns around and goes the opposite way of us right when we get to our house. And I'm like, because like he probably noticed, like if something was going on, he probably noticed that like the house, all the lights were on in the house and that there was other cars there, so people were at my house, well, the house that we were staying at. To this day, like we have no idea what was going on, but bro, that was really creepy.